It's hump day.
Hump day!
It's hump day.
Hump day!
All right, welcome everybody to Hump Day Hangouts, episode 102. Today is the 19th of October, 2016. We're happy to be here. Today we're going to keep the announcements pretty short so we can start getting to the questions. But real quick, we'll say hi to everybody. Chris, how's it going, man?
Good. Glad to be here.
Yep. Hernan, how you doing?
Hey guys, what's up? It's really good to be here. Excited for what's coming. Actually, really excited. So, yeah.
And we get to see you, so I mean, win-win. So
definitely, you guys should be getting a coupon after the hangout.
I don't know if I'd put that in the win column.
Marco, how's the weather, man?
Hey man, what's up? Rain. We've been getting lots of rain. Nice and warm though, so can't complain. Excited. I'm really excited today, man. I'm
would you say that you're pumped?
I would say that I'm really pumped, man.
Outstanding. Well, hey, Bradley, let's say hi to Bradley, and then we'll circle back around here. So how's it going, Bradley?
Hi.
I figure everybody doesn't get to hear you talk enough after this, so we got to stop and say hi to you real quick to make sure you're there. So, all right. Well, Marco, why don't you tell us what you're pumped about?
Okay. I'm really pumped to announce that we have like this major social media machine coming to meet with Semantic Mastery, man. The guy's name is C.T. Fletcher. For those of you who don't know who he is, former powerlifter, just serious powerlifter, champion, right? Record setter, just everything. And then he had a problem with his heart, and he actually died on the operating table. Not once, not 3 times the guy dies, and he comes back. And so now he has to think things through again and start all over. And so one of the things that he's done is he's targeted social media. And just in the last 3 years, he's grown, like if you guys see my post, just his YouTube subscribers are over 1 million in 3 years. So imagine, and this is all organically. Now, it's not as if he's paying for ads or if he's running all this other stuff. This is just him doing videos, his message, connecting with people, going into Twitter, going into Instagram, going into Facebook, going into everything. And so what he has graciously agreed to do is to give Semantic Mastery 90 minutes of his time. You can imagine how busy he is, right? But I spoke to him. I spoke to his business manager. We connected, and I got him to give us 90 minutes to come and tell us how he did it. Of course, share his story, but tell everyone how it was that he managed to grow his social media empire, because it's now an empire. The guy is a social media machine. So you can see why I'm so geeked to have this guy come to us and not just do the usual thing he does on social media, but to actually come and share with us what it is that he's doing behind the scenes to make his business grow. Because whatever he's doing applies exactly, just across the board to whatever anyone wants to do. He has a message, and he delivers it to his audience in the way that his audience just eats it up. So I'm geeked. Sorry for taking so much time. I could take an hour to talk about this, but let me stop.
Sounds good. No, this is going to be awesome. I think we're all looking forward to it. So I know I am. We were talking about it earlier. I think everybody's pretty pumped. Sorry to keep using that, but everyone's pretty excited to do this. So
the guy's a beast, man. He's big. He's not just big. He's effing big. So
definitely. Well, speaking of, we'll do like a beast mode segue here. So obviously we got local kingpin coming up next week. But basically, I have talked to Bradley about this and why he kind of went into AdWords. And, that's kind of a dirty word sometimes with SEOs. People hear like, oh, AdWords, that's, you're working with the enemy. But, I think this is important. And I asked you this question earlier, Bradley, so I just want to ask it like somebody asking you on the street or maybe one of the students. But why did you go into AdWords for your lead gen business?
Great question. Well, because, about a big portion of my business is lead generation, and then I do client consulting too. And what do I do for my clients? Well, I generate leads. Like, I mean, that's my business, right? So using online marketing methods, and we found that from my own lead gen properties as well as my clients' properties, that any of the clients that were ranking in maps and my own lead gen properties that were ranking in maps didn't really get affected much by the new search engine results pages layouts. It really didn't change much as far as call volume. And most of my business is generated through phone calls, not so much web form, submissions, but mostly calls. But for anything that was just organic based, call volume dropped significantly, like as much as 60%. And that's because the new search engine results pages, and I say new, but it's newer. A lot of local queries now will have four ads at the top above the 3-pack, and then there's the 3-pack. So you got to go past 7 listings just to get to the first organic listing. And because of that, any of my lead gen properties that weren't ranking in maps, my call volume dropped significantly. And then the same thing started to happen to my clients too. And so it was just a matter of me wanting to maintain the level of income that I had been used to. And saying, okay, well, look, there's 4 ads above the maps pack, and now maps packs are showing ads. Not all of them, but a lot of map packs, you're starting to see it more often now, is the first position in the 3-pack is an ad. And then if you click on expand to show more results at the bottom of the 3-pack, you open it up, and the first listing in Google Maps is an ad. And so I said, it's basically, I have to evolve with the times in order to maintain that level. And you're right. AdWords has been kind of like the dark side, for SEOs. And to be honest with you, I never did AdWords for a couple reasons. One, I didn't need to, because I was able to generate leads with SEO, a lot of leads with SEO alone. And number 2, because it was intimidating. I was intimidated by AdWords. There's just no doubt. And so I avoided using it as long as possible. But now I think it's an absolute necessity if you're in the lead generation business to at least have a look at it and try it. Because again, if your income drops because you're not able to generate as many leads, then who are you hurting by not doing AdWords? Yep. Yourself. And so I started getting into it, and I've learned so much in the last few months. And I've got the local Kingpin training. The tagline is on-demand lead generation, because what I found is with the AdWords funnels, you can set them up and set up an AdWords campaign, and within 48 hours you start generating leads. Whereas SEO could take you, if you're really good, it could take you a month to start generating leads, or more likely it's going to take you 3 to 6 months to really start generating leads from SEO. Whereas this is something you can literally set up a full AdWords funnel, local funnel or lead gen funnel, and within 48 hours have that set up, your notifications, everything, and turn the traffic on, and just like that start receiving traffic. And like the funnel that I set up for the actual training, and I'm going to do a second one as part of an ongoing case study. Although the local Kingpin training is going to be a one-time purchase, it's not a monthly, there's going to be updates for about 3 months. We're going to do several update webinars, because I want to do an ongoing case study, kind of like a live and real-time case study for that as well. But the funnel that I set up for the training, I turned on the ads 14 days ago, and it's actually 13 days ago because it was Thursday. So it was 13 days ago, and we've got 13 leads in 13 days. And that's amazing. I mean,
that's awesome.
If it was SEO, it would be, it would take every bit of a month or two before we'd start generating those type of leads. So, I'm really super impressed with it. I've been fortunate enough to be able to develop, but I started building out my multiple funnels now for my lead gen business. And so I've got a lot of practice over the last several weeks, like maybe 4 to 6 weeks. And I got a process in place. It takes some time to learn the process, but once you learn the process, you can turn these things out very, very quickly. And the other part of it is you can hire a virtual assistant, and for about 80% of the entire process can be outsourced.
Awesome.
So that's it. That's it.
All right. Well, cool, everybody. You're going to get to hear more about this next week. But I wanted to answer that. We have had questions about it, and I think it's important that you hear about why Bradley started doing this. So some pretty important stuff. And also real quick on Marco's notes on CT, we will be sending out some more information about that, but Marco posted some of his social stuff, his YouTube channel. By all means, go check it out. And you'll be hearing from us with some information about where we'll be doing the interview or the discussion, and you'll be able to show up and join. So I think that's about it.
No, one last thing before I forget, because I did say it in the announcement that I put out today. For our 104th episode, since we're going to be giving away prizes, one of the prizes that we will be giving away is we're going to give someone an opportunity to ask CT Fletcher a question live. So they will be invited not as a webinar attendee, but actually into the group to come in and ask CT Fletcher a question, whatever question, just directly in person. So not only will we be handling the questions that come on in the chat, but whoever we select can go ahead and so they can start planning for it, looking forward to it. You have to attend the 104th episode live to be eligible to win the prize. That's the condition. So there you go.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Okay, question time. You guys ready?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Let's do this.
Ben's first. He says, "Hey Bradley, is using Serp Shaker still a viable approach to creating lead gen properties to rent out? It would seem if I can deal with making each page somewhat unique and having some quality incoming links to a few of the category pages, then I would have a value properties going to hang around for a while." What are your thoughts about this? Yeah, it is, Ben. Any sort of those mass page generator builders, and there's several of them now. Yeah, if you want to use them to generate lead gen properties or to build lead gen properties, you certainly can. I recommend using an overlay or plugin though, or something like that, to where you can make them look pretty, because the default, I guess you can install a theme or whatever like that. But typically what I'll do with those type of sites is build a landing page that's on a different domain or on a subdomain or something like that, or even within ClickFunnels, and just use the ClickFunnels URL for the landing page and use that as an overlay, because those sites by themselves, typically they look like crap, and it's because it's junk content on them too, that kind of stuff. I mean, if you're using a piece of content that you added spin tags to so that it can be used across hundreds or even thousands of pages, then it's pretty much crappy content. And so I recommend that if you're going to use it to rank, that's great, but use an overlay plugin. Do not, by all means, do not overlay your money site page on top of one of those sites, because that's cloaking and it can get your site de-indexed, both the underlying site and the overlay site. I know, because I've had it happen. So I recommend, that's why I say always build a landing page on a subdomain or another domain entirely, like a throwaway domain, or use something like ClickFunnels or something like that, lead pages or something. And then, but yeah, you can still do it. I've found that for a lot of like local stuff, depending on the keywords, where I find the most success with those kind of sites for local stuff is if you build out the sites using a long list of long tail keywords, so that you're generating a page for each long tail keyword plus a local modifier for all the municipalities, townships, cities, all of that around the entire service area of the business, if that makes sense. So you can generate, like, let's say you had a list of 100 long tail keywords, and you had 5 cities or townships, municipalities, whatever you want to call them, that you wanted to target, then you would end up building the site. It would target all 5 cities times 100 keywords for each city. So it would end up being a 500-page site, if that makes sense. That's where I found it to be the most effective, is because a lot of the short tail stuff, they don't seem to rank as well, because local is becoming more competitive, at least in organic it is. That makes sense. Anyone want to comment on that?
No, I've taken the same route when it comes to some other plugins like, well, Lead Gadget, for example, or Mass Page Creator, which would be plain HTML sites. The reality is that whatever change that you need to do with that plugin, it's really cool, because it's lightweight. You do not need to handle databases and those kind of things. But whatever change you need to do the website all over again, Yeah. And the reality is that I've gone through not the entirely lead gen property or renting out property, but rather the Amazon/affiliate way. And for me, it was a complete waste of time, because you have to be dealing with de-indexing, and you need to be dealing with, I don't know, Amazon account shutdown and those kind of things, which is, you know, a completely waste of time, in my opinion. But if you keep it, I think if you keep it like really high quality, and again, you know, you follow Bradley's advice, you know, you use Serp Shaker or Lead Gadget to create the whole structure or the skeleton of the website, which will save you a ton of time, but then you go and add some value, you know, change the content, etc. That will be a much more viable approach, because each website will be much more valuable to rent out, and you can actually ask more money for it, because it's not just pouring garbage over and over again. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I would take it. If you go for, I don't know, 300 pages, you know, 500 pages, that's fine. I was doing, I don't know, 30,000, even to 500,000 pages, which was really pushing it. So, but if you keep it, you know, short and to the point and to that municipality, I think you would be fine. So,
yeah, and also, you know, if one thing, and I've done this, you can use, like, for example, a Yelp listing for the business. You can use that as an overlay, right? I mean, it's better to have a landing page, because a landing page has no distractions on it, and it's got a clear call to action that literally is, you know, for local businesses, typically either make a phone call or submit a contact request form, or both. But, you know, you can, if you don't have a landing page builder or whatever, and I've done it just for testing purposes, where I've gone out and built a bunch of pages with long tail keywords, trying to target areas just to see if it would work. And in the meantime, slapped a Yelp listing for the business on it. So the overlay, like, it literally is hundreds of pages out there that when the visitor visits, it will show the Yelp page. So that's just kind of a shortcut. Instead of going out and building a landing page and taking the time to do that, just try to rank the site first and use an overlay for something like Yelp or the Google My Business listing or something like that, you know, and I haven't tried it with that, but why not, you know, give it a shot. And then if you start to see some results, then you can always go back through and create an actual landing page to overlay instead.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, and just another thing that I wanted to add, Bradley, that I've seen a lot of people doing this, is that they will put out big Serp Shaker kind of sites, and they will link back to or use some sort of call to action or banners or whatever. At some point, they will even do 301s, for example, when the website is ranking. I would advise against that. But, you know, if you have like several feeder sites, like Serp Shaker sites, that they will feed traffic into a main website. Yeah. Like, and that main website could be very well the one that's turning visitors into leads, you know, so you do not need, I mean, the main website, the main moneymaker will not be, you want to be worrying about getting that de-index or whatever. Because it's not
sending people from a banner or something instead of a direct overlay.
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Right?
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah.
All right, and he said, you know, building links to category pages. I've never built any links to any of those types of sites, because I always look at those as short-term sites. Like, I don't expect any of those sites to last for any, you know, significant amount of time. So I never do any off-page site SEO to those sites, guys. You can if you want, and I know that some people do, and that's fine. But to me, I hate doing rework. I hate doing stuff that I end up, you know, losing later on, and so I just never built any links. I did strictly on-page stuff, and that was it. So it's up to you. If you want to try it, Ben, by all means, test. Okay. Just to clarify, he says the link packages on SerpSpace link to tier 1 properties only. Correct, Ben. We will not accept any money site links. But you can send on the IFTTT network properties, press releases, citations, anything you want, PBNs, whatever you want. We'll build links to those, just not your money sites. Munal Marketing says Project Supremacy plugin. Yes or no, and why? Your call. I've only used it for the schema.org, you know, the structured data markup, and that's it. That's the only thing I've ever used it for. And it was, you know, honestly, I don't use it just on most of my sites. I did it for one specific site in particular because we were trying to force the review stars to show, and I've had just nothing but trouble with that one particular site. But I always add my own JSON LD code to my sites manually. I just inject it into the header myself, so I don't use it for anything else other than that. You know, I know a lot of people love the plugin. I'm not saying anything bad about it. I just personally haven't used it myself, other than for that one specific purpose. And I know it's kind of like a Swiss Army plugin that it does a whole bunch of stuff. Many of those features I haven't even touched, so I don't know. So I'll let one of you guys comment on that if you've used it, and do you suggest it? Yes or no?
Yeah, I do. I've used it and I really like it. You know, it's kind of, as you were saying, Bradley, it's kind of a Swiss Army knife. The reality is that for many of us that are working with, for example, Yoast SEO, besides the stars rating and the XF data that you could put on the images and all of the markup, most of the other kind of things that the plugin could do are covered by Yoast on that regard. But I think it's a really cool plugin. I mean, it's you could have your pretty much all of it. I wouldn't say all of it, but maybe 80 or 90% of your SEO needs covered with that plugin. Now it has also, you know, a keyword research and a keyword difficulty tool. I haven't used that as much as I would like, but I think it's a really powerful plugin. And the guys, you know, Herc and Todd, they did a really good job developing it. It's a solid plugin. That's what I mean. It's not like those kind of plugins that they try to do everything, but they're buggy. This is not the case. This is a really solid plugin. Todd is a really good developer, and you know they taken their time to do that. So yeah, I would recommend it. Why not?
Yeah, it's your call. I mean, one of the things, guys, is I've over the years, like I've gotten to the point where I'm a minimalist when it comes to WordPress now. Like I try to use the absolute bare minimum of plugins because of all the issues that occur with plugins and conflicts and updates and hacks and all that kind of shit, and slowing down of the page load, you know, page speed and everything else. So I really have gone. I used to buy plugins. I used to buy every damn plugin that was ever launched, you know, and it was such a waste of time. And 80% of the plugins that you purchase, especially in the IM world, are junk, and they don't end up being supported for any length of time. So I know Project Supremacy plugin is contrary to that. In other words, there's good developers behind it and support, and they're constantly updating and improving it. But personally, I'm just not. I'm a minimalist when it comes to WordPress now, and I try to use the absolute bare minimum of plugins. So it's just not something that I've used much of. But that's a good question, and I know a lot of people are really happy with it. I know it's supposed to be a really, really great plugin. So. Mark says, SM Crew, hope all is well. I would like some advice, please. I have my first lead gen site on first page for one of my main keywords, +1 that. And I'm literally number 11 for my main keyword. So I'm going to start contacting people now. Very excited, but I'm also nervous. It's my first one and couldn't have done it without you guys, especially IFTTT SEO Academy. It's been very powerful for my site, I believe. Not the only thing, but huge. But I don't like the idea of people ringing one company, the lead gen one, and getting another, the lead fulfiller. Okay, so like the service provider. So what you're asking, what Mark is asking about, guys, is if you have a generic lead gen property and you're selling the leads to another company, and the other company ends up calling the customer that submitted the contact request, and they're calling from a different company now, right? And they announce themselves as a different company. That seems a little bit weird. And yeah, that can be. So what would be your advice? I'm thinking of saying that the lead gen company is teamed up with who's getting the leads. For example, saying something like Plumber Pro Dallas teamed up with Bob's Plumbing. Sorry for the long question, but it's my first time, and I would like some advice from you guys. Trust me, I'm a big skeptic online, as I know most internet marketing is full of slime. Thanks, you guys, for any input will help. Okay, yeah, and you can do that. You can say, for example, well, there's a couple things you can do. You can do what you just mentioned. That is certainly valid. In fact, the lead gen funnel that I set up for the local Kingpin training is exactly the scenario that you're talking about here. It's a generic name that I made, a pseudo brand, as I call it. And I've got the tree service contractor that is servicing those leads. He asked me the exact same question. He says, well, it's kind of weird because they say, well, we called, and you know, when I call and say, hey, this is blah, blah, blah. Well, what he does now is when he returns the call from the lead that comes in, is he says, hey, this is my name from blah, blah, blah. You submitted your details for, you know, blah. And here I'm coming out to you know, give you an estimate or whatever. That is my marketing website. And that's what he says to cover it. But I'm only doing that because I'm sharing that lead gen funnel in the local Kingpin training. In other words, it'll be shared with you guys. So I didn't want to actually use the contractor's name on that. But for a lot of my lead gen clients, guys, what I'll do is I'll build out the sites and get them ranked or whatever with my own pseudo brand. And then I'll go in and just swap out like the graphics of the logo graphics and put the company, whoever the service provider ends up being, I make it their branding on the site. Does that make sense? So that when somebody lands on the landing page, they see the company's name. It's usually like in an image. Like, so I won't I won't put the company's name in text on the page or in the SEO title and stuff like that, because that could affect my SEO that I've done for that lead gen site with the pseudo brand. But what I'll do is I'll put their graphics on there. I could put a notification bar, like you can use a plugin for that, for example, a notification bar that comes up at the top of the WordPress, the web page that has scrolling text that says we've changed our name or we've partnered with or whatever, and just put their branding on it. Does that make sense? So I like to do that because that way I still keep my site ranked, my digital assets with my pseudo brand kind of like underlying, but I put their branding on that site so that when anybody lands on the site, they know that when the service provider calls the customer, they're going to be familiar with that brand already. So that's just another way that you can do it. And you can do that literally with just graphics, guys. You can even put a pop-up plugin, like an exit pop plugin, for example, on the site that will make a big banner square pop up on the page and say, hey, all service provided by, and in the contractor's name and their logo, something like that. Okay. I totally understand. And, some companies are going to complain about that. And so find another service provider. My point is, there's plenty of contractors, especially, guys, because that's the niche I work in, is contracting niche, right? And there's plenty of contractors out there that are hurting for leads and that could care less what the site looks like as long as they're getting the leads. Okay. So, all right, Brandon's next. How much can be rewritten and changed as far as content, sidebar, outbound links of an existing page before it does the 3-week Google dance? Will changing most of a page cause only that page to jump around, or does it affect the entire site? I don't know if I don't know what the specific percentages are of how much content can be changed, because usually if you edit or modify the SEO title, right? So like the meta title, that's a pretty big change, because that's the first thing. I think that's pretty much weighted the most for, telling Google what the page is about, is that SEO title. It's one of the first things that the bots see. So changing the SEO title can make it dance. I know that for a fact. Also, changing the URL slug can make it dance sometimes. Changing like the H1 tag, which is important. That's the page opening title, right? That can make it dance. Now, as far as changing the content, adding, like, for example, a lot of times I'll go back to old content and add new paragraphs, because that kind of refreshes the page. It adds some new content to the page, gets it recrawled, re-indexed. And so that can actually have a positive effect. As far as changing like how much existing copies on the page, I don't really know. I don't have a number for that. Do any of you guys like have a threshold?
No, I don't have a threshold, but I do know link building, major changes on the page, and also no changes. It can start dancing for no reason. Remember, it's a mousetrap, and so you might have Google might assign a position to you for whatever reason, and then all of a sudden it'll drop. It'll drop to see how you react. You can't touch it for 21 days once it does that. Remember, how we've always seen this, right? For no reason, a video. Remember, videos would drop, and you commented a lot about this, Bradley. And then all of a sudden, you just left it alone, and it would come back, often even stronger than before.
Yes.
We were able to pinpoint that this is actually the Google dance. We were able to give it time frames when it would take place. Guys, just go. Look up, what is it, the Google Dance Explained. Just Google it, the Google Dance Explained. You'll see my blog post and you'll know what it's all about. But it doesn't mean that you do have to make changes on the page. It just means that Google, for whatever reason, will decide to get your stuff dancing to see how you react. And once it starts doing that, you can't do any link building or anything else other than what you normally do, or else you get sandboxed.
Yeah, and the other part of that says, will changing most of a page cause only that page to jump, or does it affect the entire site? It depends, Brandon, because it depends on how integral that page is to the rest of the site. Like, if it's a page that has, like, for example, if it's one of the strongest pages on the site that you're changing, it has a lot of inbound links, and that's where most of the site's authority comes through, or at least a large portion of the site's authority comes through that one page, then changing that page could certainly affect the entire site. But for the most part, typically it will just affect the one page, unless, like I said, there is a lot of link equity flowing into that page for some particular reason that then is also feeding the rest of the, other pages on the site, if that makes sense. If that's kind of like where a lot of inbound links are coming in, it just depends on how much of the overall strength of the domain is coming from that particular page. If it's a significant amount, then yes, it can affect the whole site. If it's a nominal amount, then most likely it's just going to affect that one page. Okay. But also, like Marco said, it's usually structural changes are going to cause any sort of structural change. So again, SEO title, URL, H1 tag, anything like that can cause the page to dance quite a bit. But as far as the actual content, the body of the content, if you were to swap out several paragraphs, that could most likely change it as well. But like if you're just editing a few lines here and there, it's probably not going to cause much change. Although it can, though, guys, it certainly can. All right. What you might want to do, Brandon, is test another page on the site that might not be as important and see what it does to that site. Okay. Chris says, my site is a complex silo structure with an IFTTT brand network around it. My confusion is on what type of anchor text to use in the post linking back up to the child category pages. I thought it was suggested in the IFTTT training to use long phrases and even an entire sentence to avoid short exact match keyword anchor text being syndicated out to the four blogs in the network. But it also seems we should use strong, important keywords to link up to the child pages to reinforce to Google what the child page is about. I feel like I'm missing out on strong internal linking power because out of fear, I'm using long phrases instead of keywords for the anchor text. What do you suggest for the links? Thanks. Chris, I understand your concern, but what I was talking about specifically with using the longer phrases and that kind of stuff, using sentences, that's if you're using a tiered network. Because if you're using a branded network and you've only got 3 or 4 blogs in that network, which would be Blogger, Tumblr, WordPress, and then perhaps Medium or Weebly, one of those, or blog.com, for example, any one of those, you're only looking at 3 or 4 anchor text links. So what I would do is I would go ahead and use your exact match keyword as your internal link, which will syndicate out to the network, but it's only 3 or 4 different blog properties. So you're only getting three or 4 external links with that exact match, and they're Web 2 links. So that's not quite the same as if you were like building like a real strong PBN link. Like if you were to build like 4 or 5 really strong PBN links with exact match anchors, that could tip you past the beyond the over optimization scale. But for the blog sites, it's not really an issue. On a 2-tier network, you got to be careful, because on a 2-tier network, now you're looking at 12 to 15, 12 to 16, depending on whether you're using 3 or 4 blogs per network, you're looking at 12 to 16 anchor text links. So when you're using tiered networks, which I don't suggest you'd ever do anyways, you can. We always suggest you use a tier 1 network only for blog syndication. Don't worry about it. Just make sure that if you're going to continue linking from blog posts to those top level category pages or child category pages, as you say here, that you don't just hammer the same keywords over and over again. If you're going to be continually linking from your blog to those category pages, make sure you vary your anchor text and your link types, right? Vary your anchor text, use naked URLs, generic terms. You could also use, like I mentioned before, 3 different link types. You could do contextual links, which is typical. That's what most people will do. But you can also curate content from your pages or your category pages, whatever, into your blog posts. So then you end up using like a curation or a citation style link where you're citing an attribution style link where you're attributing where the content came from, right? The source, you're attributing the source. So that's the other way. And then you can also link with like a recommended reading or related resources box. So those are different link types as well. So you want to, again, I do recommend that you use exact match anchors to link to your category pages. Just make sure that if you're going to hammer away on those same category pages over and over again, that you vary your anchor text types, and your link types. Good question, though. Scott says, doing keyword research on UberSuggest for an affiliate site, and there are several phrases with identical strings of words except for the last word or two. The phrases are all related and mean the same thing, i.e. questions to ask a girl over text, questions to ask a girl you like. Do you make one page with these additional keywords sprinkled throughout the article to hopefully rank for all of them, or do you make a separate page for each keyword? Do not make a separate page for each keyword. You will trigger a Panda penalty for sure. Around Panda 4, which I think was around April or May of 2014, that changed. It used to be that you would want a separate page or post on your site for every one of those keywords. That's how we used to do it. but then it ended up becoming a negative ranking factor because they're too similar. Those queries or those terms are too similar. And so you end up with what Google determines is like, it's like duplicate content, because they're so similar that they really don't deserve their own pages of content. They could all be combined into one. So what you might want to do is create a page with this particular example. You might just want to create a page with questions to ask a girl, and then have like literally a Q&A page, because then you can work all those keywords in there and then actually answer them. And that would be like an actual valuable piece of content based upon queries out there that people are searching for, right? That would probably end up speaking well to the Hummingbird algorithm too, and mobile as well, because those are full text queries, right? So no, I would put them all on one page. Absolutely. You don't need to do that. You know, guys, you just think about it. You got to think about, does it look spammy? And if you had multiple pages or posts on the site that are only slightly different, then yeah, that certainly looks spammy. So just try to think about it logically. Does it look spammy? If so, if you think it would seem spammy, just don't do it. All right. Same question goes for ranking videos for these keywords. Well, videos is different, because now you're talking about using YouTube, which is a Google property. That's a bit different. Those rules are different, guys. A lot of difference between money sites and YouTube. Videos are easier and cheaper to make for separate videos, as far as you can just spin content and description, where for a site you would need unique content for each page and would be far more expensive. I totally agree, Scott. Scott, yeah, you can spam with videos a hell of a lot easier and get away with a hell of a lot more. I wouldn't do that to a money site, though. Okay? Pete says, asked last week and ran out of time, so here it is again. Yeah, sorry, Pete. It's got to get in early, buddy. When discussing 3-pack optimization strategies, everyone has a strategy. My question is, what are you doing to get consistent results that you can directly tie to your strategy? Keep in mind, I know that there are several factors that come into play, but some things have a bigger bang. No silver bullets, just a strategy you're implementing that seems to give the biggest returns. RYS Academy, Pete.
You beat me to it. Yep.
I tried. I knew you were going to say it, Marco. Yeah, RYS Academy works really, really well for local. It's not a silver bullet, because it's not something that works 100% of the time every time, but it's consistently, it is like our secret sauce for ranking and maps is to employ a drive stack, right? And that's something that we've talked about. If you're in look, you can buy RYS Academy or join RYS Academy and learn how to do it yourself. Or you can just buy done for you drive stacks from us and not even go through the whole trouble of learning how to do it yourself. It's up to you. Like, if you're the do-it-yourselfer, you're going to want to join the academy. If you just want the results without having to learn how to do it and put the work in to do it, then just order them from us. And I don't build my own drive stacks. Are you kidding? I've only built a handful of drive stacks in my entire life, and it's only because I did it for training purposes for others. We have a virtual assistant that builds our drive stacks, who is absolutely amazing. The guy's a machine, and the stacks that he builds are freaking beautiful, and he does it quickly. And so for the cost that you guys can buy drive stacks, man, it's hands down the way to go, in my opinion. Marco, you want to pitch that a little more, man? Because I think I did a pretty good job.
No, dude. 9 months of being inside there, playing with files and folders and everything that you could do, and moving it up and down and all around. I don't want to go in there again, man. Yep. I don't do it. That's why we hired and trained our VA to do the best job possible. We found the best guy for the job, and now he does it, so that we don't have to.
And he's amazing.
It's a headache. He's fabulous. The quality of G sites. If you guys have seen G sites, they suck. Right? There's very little that you could do with them, but he does some awesome stuff with them, man. He actually makes them look really good. So
yeah, he does. He just did one for the local Kingpin training. The upgrade is called Maps Kingpin, and so I implemented a drive stack for that, and had our guy build the stack for me, and he got it back to me like within 24 hours. Well, of course, I'm one of his bosses, but he got it back to me in about 24 hours, and I posted it in our Slack box, and I was just like, wow, he's an artist. This is beautiful. I was really, really impressed. So definitely check it out. Rob's next. With the blog on a subdomain with an IFTTT syndication network that has internal links over to the main domain, any recommendations for linking best practices since they are not actual internal links? No, I wouldn't worry about it, Rob. I mean, the way I look at if you have a blog on a subdomain of a main money site, the way I look at it is it still is an internal link. I know it's technically not, but since it's part of the same domain, I still consider it as an internal link. So I treat them as such. Now, I wouldn't, hammer away, just like I mentioned to Scott, I guess it was, or Chris, or whoever it was I was just talking about with anchor text. You don't want to just keep hammering away with the same anchor text over and over again. There's no doubt you want to vary your anchor text type, and your link type. But I still treat blogs on subdomains as part of the money site. That's just how I do it. If any one of you guys have any, other opinions, I'd like to hear them.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I do it. I do it the same way. I treat subdomains as part of the main money site. So, I just usually use the same IFTTT because you want to keep everything as branded as possible, and the more content you feed into that, usually the better. So, yeah, I just whatever you're doing. So,
if I'm using a subdomain as an entirely separate site, like different branding and everything else, then of course I wouldn't, you wouldn't be linking to the root anyways, unless there was a reason for it, in which case I would treat it as an external link. But, when the blog is branded like the root, then it's pretty apparent. It's pretty clear that it's just a blog on a subdomain. For example, if you have like an e-commerce store or site on the root domain, and you want to put a WordPress blog on a subdomain and it's blog.myecomstore.com, then since it's the same branding, then and I'm linking from the subdomain blog post up to the root domain, I don't treat it as an external link. I treat it as an internal link. But if it was a separate site entirely, like different branding, different, category topics and all that kind of stuff, then I would treat it as an external link then. But that was a good question too, Rob. Kevin's next. Hey guys, just have a quick question about backlinking to a Google stack. Is 50 tier 2 contextuals to all of the stack's individual properties plus 100 tier 3s to each tier 2 drip fed over 14 days be too much for a 6-day-old stack? Love your approach, Kevin. No, you can basically drop an atom bomb on a drive stack, and I'll let Marco comment on this one, but I haven't seen any negative effect from it. So throw the kitchen sink at it as far as I'm concerned. What do you think, Marco?
I always tell people, test. My standard answer is this is something that you should test. We've abused them. I mean, we've done SAP, I've done Fiverr gigs and just a whole bunch of crap to it, and nothing's happened. That's not to say that tomorrow it won't change.
That's true.
So take that with a grain of salt. But right now, hammer it. As a matter of fact, jackhammer SEO.
Yep, but I love Kevin's approach though, man. That's awesome. He's not holding back. He's CT Fletcher in it. That's awesome. Biz Trends says, hey, Bradley and Semantic team, Jeff here. Okay, so it's Jeff. Would like to ask the following. If I have a YouTube channel with a persona-based tier 1 IFTTT network attached, and I want to send some tier 2 social signals to the tier 1 network with Syndwire, would I set Syndwire up with persona-based profiles or branded profiles? I do persona-based. Jeff, I would do persona-based. Because, again, I mean, it makes sense. I wouldn't. If you got a tier 1 network and you want to send social signals to your tier 1 network, it really wouldn't make sense to those at least in my opinion, it wouldn't make sense to be coming from branded, like especially like branded properties that are branded the same as the IFTTT network or the, the money site. To me, it makes sense that you would be receiving signals from like people, random people and followers and customers and fans and that kind of stuff, which would be personas. Okay. So that's just my take on it. I would set it up as personas. All right, now the same but different companion website to the YouTube channel has a branded tier 1 IFTTT network attached, and I want to use Syndwire to drive tier 2 social signals to my tier 1 branded network, persona or branded profiles for the companion website Syndwire setup. Persona or branded profiles for the companion website. Attached. I want drives to my tier 1 branded network. Okay, so you want to drive tier 2 social signals to your branded network around your YouTube channel? The same thing. I would still do persona based for the companion website Syndwire setup. I'm not sure what that means. Because because you asked about YouTube channels. So as far as I can tell, you're just asking, okay, money site, branded network, what type of should you have, branded or persona-based tier 2? I say persona. YouTube as your trigger, branded tier 1 network. Should you have persona or branded tier 2? I say persona. Okay, I mean that's how the bulk of them, anyways. If you want to mix some branded stuff in there, you certainly can. But I would just stick with persona. Do you have any suggestions for gigs for Syndwire profiles set up to the semantics mastery level quality? No, unfortunately, I do not, Jeff, because I just took one of our network builders that builds our IFTTT networks and basically had them set up my Syndwire profiles the same way that we set up our IFTTT profiles. In other words, she would create a persona and then register for all the accounts that were available in Syndwire that I cared about, because there was a bunch of them in there that really were worthless in my opinion. But the ones that I cared about, she would go out and create an account with that persona brand or that persona profile for all of those accounts, and then she would interlink all of them and theme that network, theme that persona around a particular category like construction or health and wellness, or whatever, something like that. And so then I would group persona profiles together. So let's say she built 20 profiles, personas, each with their own set of accounts, and they were all for the construction and home services industry. I would put all of them in a single Syndwire group so that when I went to go make a post, I could just select that group and I could push out to all 20 of those properties, those 20 profiles, which might have 15 or 20 properties per profile, if that makes sense, but they would all be themed. But I just had one of our IFTTT network builders do it. So I don't know of any Fiverr gigs. I never purchased a gig from anybody for Syndwire. I just had one of our own internal network builders do it. So personally, I couldn't suggest any. What I would recommend that you do is potentially, hire your own virtual assistant and train them the way that you want them to build it, because that's going to be your most cost effective. And if you're a heavy user of Syndwire, you're probably going to want somebody on, like, essentially a virtual assistant on your payroll that can build them for you, because I know accounts do get shut down and that kind of stuff. All right. Yeah, I got the point with the big flashing warning, Adam.
Thought it'd be a little bit more obvious this week.
Brian says, what do you guys do to breathe life into an expired domain you scraped besides rebranding it and giving it an IFTTT network? Well, social signals, that helps. And also crowd search. If you're using crowd search or some sort of CT spam, click-through spam tool, driving traffic into that PBN will breathe life into it. So social signals and traffic will breathe life into an expired domain. So, and again, you can spoof traffic with something like Syndwire, or not Syndwire, excuse me, crowd search. Ethan Rocker says, hey, I keep on running into a frustrating problem when creating my Google My Business listing. Okay, I read this earlier. I don't have any advice for you, Ethan. I'm sorry. That's something I would reach out to Google My Business support for, and find out, what the issue, if they can help you. And a lot of times they can. In fact, Wayne Clayton actually pointed me to a help file for Google My Business the other day that I found to be like really cool. I guess Google stepped up their game. Let's see if I can find this real quick. This one here, I believe. Yeah, this is it. All right, I'm going to drop this link on the page. This is how you can contact Google My Business and tell them you're having an issue and explain to them what the hell the issue is. And they'll contact you via email or whatever, or possibly by phone. You can tell them which one you want and ask them, what the problem is. So hopefully it's not a spam site. If it is, I didn't fill this out because I was having issues getting a verification card for one of my lead gen properties, and I did not fill this out because I didn't want some Google rep poking around and investigating it a little bit further, if you know what I mean. But if it's a real business, then I would have no problem at all contacting their support. Okay, so just keep that in mind. I don't know of any other thing to tell you about that, Ethan. I apologize. This is GMB help. And we almost got all the questions today, almost. Okay, also regarding GMB listings, it is recommended to check the box. Is it recommended to check the box, I deliver goods and services to my customer at their location for all niches? No, Ethan. It's I have a few drug rehab sites, and I'm not sure if that would be relevant. No, Ethan, okay, think of it this way. if it's a service-based business where the business serves the customer at the customer location, then you would want to check that box, because that basically removes your list, your street address from the maps. If you don't serve, if customers don't ever come to your location, then that is by Google's own terms of service. That's how you're supposed to set the listing up. In other words, if it's a plumber and the plumber always goes to the customer's house or business, whatever, the customer location, there's probably never a time where the customer is going to come to the plumbing company's location, right? So you would check that box and it would basically remove your street address from maps, but it would still show your city, your contact information, everything else. But if you've got a point of sale, a business where customers make a transaction at your location, or they come to your location to pick up stuff or whatever, then you're going to want to not check that box and leave your street address. That makes sense. So that's why, like for my lead gen properties, again, I deal pretty much exclusively with contractors, and they're pretty much all service based where they go to the customer location. So I always check that box to where it removes my street address from the maps, because most of the time they're, virtual mailboxes anyways. So I don't want that address shown in Google Maps. It doesn't make sense. Nobody's going to click driving directions to go to a virtual mailbox for a plumber. Does that make sense? So again, just think about it. Do you have a point of sale? If you have a point of sale, leave the address showing. If you don't have a point of sale, there's really no need. If the business goes to the customer location, then you can remove that or check that box. Okay. Greg, we got 4 more minutes, guys. Right? We got 4 more minutes, or am I supposed to wrap it up now?
Yeah, I should be wrapping it up, but yeah, let's just roll through these.
Greg says, based on your input last week, I removed 2 blogs from my IFTTT network. I had 10. Okay. For the other 3 extra blogs, I could change them to syndicate only post snippets with a title linking to the blog, 2 paragraphs of content, and attribution link. They would look more like large bookmarks or a blog archive page. Would these be good to continue to use in that manner, or would you still eliminate those completely as well? I don't know, Greg. I would test it. I mean, honestly, that's all I would do, is I would just test it. I'm not sure. I mean, again, I personally, I've said this 1,000 times. I'll say it one more time now, and then I'll say it 10 more times next week. I would just do a standard tier 1 blog syndication network, and that's it. That's all I do for my money sites now, guys, is one branded tier 1 network. That's it. Okay. If you want to do other things like what you're talking about here, Greg, again, you'd have to test it, because I just don't know. And without me testing, I'm not going to give you some bullshit answer. You know what I mean? So I would have to test that. But and I'm not going to set up a test for that, because like I said, I always just use a branded tier 1 network because it's the safest. It makes sense. Right. But again, if you want to continue using additional blogs, if that's your strategy, then hey, great. That's awesome, man. I'm glad. It's good to see you taking the initiative to do your own thing. Just continue. I would test maybe with another site. If it's a money site that you're counting on, ranking or whatever, if it's important to you, then I would test it on a test site first and see what kind of results you get from that method. All right. If I keep them, should I leave the existing full posts that are already on them, or change those to 2 paragraph snippets? Thanks. Again, I don't know. I can't answer that, Greg. I'm sorry. I wish I could, but honestly, like I said, I can only give you the advice of what I do, and what I do is just a branded tier 1 ring for money sites, and that's it. All right. Damon, advice request. I'm starting a site from scratch. Can you recommend a good plugin or theme that is not bloated and has all the SEO bells and whistles? I've done website SEO. I haven't done website SEO for real in 3 years. I'm building the Video Leads HQ brand, and that consists of a website too. Any recommendation from the experts? Damon, I'm pretty particular with my themes that I've used. I liked ink themes. I've always used ink themes. I don't know that they're particularly SEO friendly or not. It's just that's the one, like you guys know, every theme developer has their own like functionality within there. And I just learned ink themes really, really well. So I always stuck with those, or I'll use something like Optimize Press or ClickFunnels for everything now. I use ClickFunnels for just about everything now. So. What were you going to say?
Yep. I was about to say that, yeah, you can go to Theme Forest and, order them for most popular, and you will find Avada, I think the X theme or something like that. And then you will find, Thrive Themes is a good one.
Yeah, Thrive is good. Yes, I agree with that.
Thrive is good. Genesis, it's another. DV is another good one. So there you have a bunch to go about, and they are not that complex because the more beautiful the theme, the less it works for SEO. So have that in mind.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I'm a more of a minimalist now when it comes to WordPress, guys. Like, I try to knock out a site as quickly as possible using the least amount of plugins, and just I don't like spending a lot of time on WordPress. And now I'm using ClickFunnels for even my even websites basically. I mean, other than for if I have to have a blog and a syndication network, which I do for a lot of stuff, then I'm certainly using WordPress. But yeah, I mean, I agree with Hernan, and Thrive themes are really good themes too. Haven't used them a whole lot. I use more of their plugins, landing page and content builder plugins and stuff, but I know that they've got some pretty good stuff. So, okay, cool. 4:55 on the money, and we got to all the questions. That was like a match made in heaven. So,
boom.
All right, guys.
Cool.
Thanks for everybody being here. We will see masterclass members in about 5 minutes.
Awesome. Let's do this.
Don't forget Local Kingpin next Tuesday.
Bye-bye.
See you.